I'm too scared to live in the same house with her. Send the cursed child away.
My heart shattered when my dad pushed me out of his house and his life, believing Melinda's words. I went over to my aunt's. She was disappointed in me, but also in my dad, who she thought was stupid. We let my grandparents in on everything, and they stormed my dad's house. Hello, I'm Liz, a real estate agent and restaurant owner. 10 years ago, I lost my mom. Prior to her death, our family was a happy one. My parents were the best. Their love story was interesting. My mom was an introvert who spent most of her time in the library, while my dad was an extrovert who was always partying. After college, my mom got a job at a high-class restaurant as a chef, while my dad started his own company. They'd both met one day, when my dad and his workers came to have lunch at the restaurant my mom worked in. They'd enjoyed the meal so much that my dad had asked to see the chef to personally thank her. Another time, they happened to come across each other at the beach some other time and exchanged contacts. What started as a normal friendship soon progressed to a romantic relationship 6 months later. They were head over heels in love with each other. They would go on dates, have fun, and simply enjoy each other's presence. Eventually, after 1 year and a couple of months later, my dad proposed marriage, and my mom was the happiest woman when he did. I can remember her wide smiles whenever she told me about that special day. After the proposal, he took her to see his parents, and they loved her. My mom was an orphan, and my dad's parents were kind enough to never make her feel that. Even at the wedding, she never felt the absence of her parents. There was love overflowing from every corner. According to my parents, my birth completed them. My mom had stopped working to make time for me. No, my dad didn't make her stop. She wanted to fully enjoy motherhood. Our family was beautiful. I attended the best school. I wore beautiful clothes and ate whatever I wanted. My parents spoiled me. Of course, not too much so I didn't turn out bad. I loved my family and prayed daily to end up with a man like my father. That wish died, though. I was 15 when things began to go bad. My mom was sick. She began to look weak and grow lean. When it started, my dad was away on a 6-month business trip. My mom didn't tell him about what was going on. She made him believe that everything was fine, but the opposite was the case. My mom wasn't doing well. Twice I caught her throwing up, and when I looked, there was blood there. On different occasions, she had to rush out of the dining table to wipe her bleeding nose. I was so worried, but I couldn't do anything but await my dad's arrival. Eventually, he did. After 6 months, my mom had gotten worse. He was shocked to his bones when he saw her. My mom had tried to act tough and smile it off, but I refused. I told my dad everything, and he panicked. He didn't even get to shower before he quickly took her to the hospital. I remained at home, praying for my mom to get well. That night, my dad returned home alone, wearing the saddest expression I'd ever seen in him. He sank into the chair beside me and buried his face in his palms.
Your mom is dying. She has an incurable disease.
My whole world stopped for a moment when he said that. It was like I suddenly went deaf and unable to understand anything. With no idea what to do, I burst into tears. My dad was also crying as he hugged and comforted me. The next day when we went to see my mom, she'd changed so much that I could barely recognize her. I felt so sad as it hadn't even been 24 hours, and she already looked that way. I cried even more, begging the doctors to save her, but they gave me a sympathetic look, telling me there was nothing to do at that point. I refused to leave her side. I remained on her bed, hugging her weak body to myself until she suddenly went cold. My mom died in my hands. I screamed and shook her violently, but she didn't wake up. I saw my entire world crumble before me. My dad held me as we cried. After her funeral, life was even tougher for me. My dad was barely home, and whenever he managed to be home, I would see him crying secretly. It hurt my already broken heart. There was no one to comfort me, and my dad was doing badly. I wanted to comfort him, but I hadn't even been able to do so for myself. Slowly, we began to grow apart. For a whole year, I barely saw my dad or talked to him. I returned to school, distancing myself from everyone and being gloomy all the time. My friends tried to help, but they all left because I continued pushing them away. I was alone. On my mom's first death anniversary, my grandparents, uncles, and aunts were present. I also noticed a particular lady who kept clinging to my dad. It was even weirder when he didn't push her off. Instead, he looked so comfortable. After that day, I tried to talk to him about the lady. I was 16 and still a child to him, but it didn't mean I wasn't sensible. The time finally came when he returned from a business trip. "Dad, I'd like to talk to you about something." He seemed uninterested, but I went on. I boldly asked him if something was going on between him and the lady, and the answer I got wasn't what I expected. Or, I'd expected it but hoped I wouldn't get it.
She's my girlfriend. She's been good to me and has taken good care of me since your mother's death. I plan to marry her.
Dad, it's not even been 2 years since Mom died. This isn't fair.
Who are you to lecture me on what's right and wrong? I'm your dad, Liz. Don't forget that.
I was heartbroken when he stormed off. 2 months after that discussion happened, he brought the lady home and introduced her as Melinda and also the new lady of the house. She began to visit frequently until she finally moved in 3 months later. I didn't like Melinda. She avoided me and I did the same, but I saw her being cruel to the houseworkers whenever my dad wasn't watching and I knew she was no good. My dad didn't care about me anymore. I hated how everything was going. It all felt so disrespectful to my late mom. For the first 4 months Melina lived with us, I ignored her. But she soon began showing me the cruelty she showed to the workers. She would lock the door and refuse me from going into my room. She would beat me for no reason. She also began making food unavailable for me. I was only allowed to eat once a day. But our kind maids were sweet enough to leave some food in the storage room, which I would sneak into and eat at night. Melinda was pure evil. She didn't hide it when my dad was home, and that hurt me even more. He watched as she mistreated me without doing anything about it. He would sit and listen to my loud cries when Melinda beat me up. He even accepted when she suggested that I drop out of high school. I stopped going to school and was at home, doing nothing other than receiving lashes and insults. Soon, Melinda announced that she was pregnant. I saw how my dad lifted and spun her around excitedly, not knowing he wasn't the owner of the child. Melinda was cheating on him. Many times, I'd caught her speaking to her boyfriend over video calls. I also heard when she told him she was pregnant for him and planned to pin the child on my dad. Her aim was to marry my dad, get him to will his properties to her son, and kill him. I didn't tell my dad. I didn't have evidence, and I knew he wouldn't believe the words of my mouth. He continued believing and trusting her blindly until she gave birth to her son. 6 months later, I overheard her planning to make my dad will the properties and also poison him, so I decided to step in. I reached out to my aunt, who had no idea what was happening in the house because my dad wasn't on speaking terms with her. She hadn't supported his relationship with Melinda, and that angered my dad. When I told her everything, she was livid. But I begged her to be silent about it. I wanted Melinda to leave with her son. With my aunt's help, we got a doctor. I managed to get a few hair strands of my dad's hair and that of Melinda's son. A DNA test was done, and I got evidence that my dad wasn't the owner of the child. In anger and without thinking, I confronted Melinda, showing her the result. It was a stupid move. She beat me up and took the test result from me, tearing it to pieces. In order to eliminate me finally, she lied to my dad that I'd tried to stab her in her sleep.
I'm too scared to live in the same house with her. Send the cursed child away.
My heart shattered when my dad pushed me out of his house and his life, believing Melinda's words. I went over to my aunt's. She was disappointed in me, but also in my dad, who she thought was stupid. We let my grandparents in on everything, and they stormed my dad's house. After much back and forth, he agreed to have a DNA test. Of course, Melinda tried to convince him, but it was impossible. My grandparents forced him. Until the results came out, my aunt and grandparents lived with us. Melinda was visibly disturbed, but there was nothing she could do because my aunt took everyone's phones. She couldn't contact her boyfriend, neither could she leave the house. 3 days later, the result was finally out. Of course, my dad wasn't the father, he was broken. My aunt wasn't going to let it slide. She pounced on Melinda and began beating her up until the lady finally confessed her plans on camera. She told everyone she didn't love my dad but was there to get his money. According to her, my dad had dated her younger sister years back and had broken her heart, so she came for revenge for her late sister. She and her boyfriend had planned this all along to make my dad fall in love with her, pin a pregnancy on him, and have him will his assets to their son before they killed him. She already had bruises all over, and her eyes were swollen. My dad couldn't speak. He let us handle everything. My aunt forced Melinda to the police station where they made her reveal where her boyfriend was. She did, and he was arrested alongside her. Before they were taken to court, my aunt paid the cops to torture both of them for days. On the day of their hearing, they were both nearly unrecognizable. Melinda's face was all swollen, a bandage supporting her right hand, limping on her left leg and having another bandage around her ankle. Melinda was charged with attempted murder and fraud, while her boyfriend was tagged as her accomplice. They both got 15 years imprisonment each with no fine or bail option. I was impressed. After we left the court and went home, my dad apologized to everyone in tears.
I found comfort in her. After my wife's death, I was nearly depressed. I feel so bad for everything. Please, forgive me. Liz, I understand if you never forgive me, but I'll never stop apologizing for mistreating you.
It was hard to forgive him, but we did. As for Liz's child, we sent him to an orphanage because we couldn't let him live with us. My dad truly didn't stop apologizing. Even though I'd forgiven him, I felt relieved that he was living with the guilt of what he did. I understand that my mom's death affected him deeply, but it also affected me, and he should have been there for me. I don't hate him, but I feel rewarded seeing him live in guilt. I'm not a bad daughter, am I?
At the hospital, my father and the doctors were confused, but when I asked them to run some toxicology tests on my father, they understood immediately once the results came back. You see, I realized that my stepmother must have been slowly poisoning my father so that he died slowly, and so that it looked like some unknown illness instead of poisoning. She didn't want me to buy their home so that they could pay my father's medical bills. She wanted the money so that she could leave the country once my father was dead. Hi there, my name is Malcolm, and I came very close to making a huge mistake. So much so that I almost lost someone very close to me as a result. So for starters, let me say that my mother passed away quite a few years ago when I was very young, and my father has tried to date off and on since. At first, he had trouble moving on as he felt that it was betraying the memory of my mother, but after a lot of long talks with me, I helped him to understand that he wasn't. I mean, he deserved to be happy, and I hated seeing him feeling lonely. However, I never would have imagined that one day he would one day get married to someone like Megan. She was very beautiful and very young. Honestly, in the beginning, Megan seemed like a nice enough person, and when my father first met her, she really did seem like a good fit for him. That is until I started noticing things that made me start to dislike her. It was really simple stuff. My father never really had much of a sense of style. He typically would always just wear a t-shirt and blue jeans. But after he started dating Megan, he began wearing polo shirts and dress pants all the time. Hey Dad, why are you dressed up like you were going to work? You do know that it's Saturday, right? Yeah, I'm just wearing normal clothes. Normal for who? Are you really comfortable in that getup?
He looks fine, Malcolm. This is how a man should dress, not like a slob like he used to. If you ever want to get a wife as well, then I suggest you maybe follow your father's lead.
Her words were very annoying, but the more I paid attention, the more that Megan would say things to my dad and make him change things about himself. It very much felt like she was molding him to be the perfect boyfriend, or at least what she considered to be the perfect boyfriend. At first it was just the way he dressed, but then she started planning out everything that he ate. She emptied the refrigerator and stocked it full of organic foods and nothing processed. And I get it. That isn't really that bad of a thing. My father did eat rather unhealthily, but it was more the level of control that she had over him that worried me. I had tried to get him to stop eating TV dinners with no luck, and after a month of dating Megan, he was eating barely any meat and more vegetables than even I was. So for years it went like that until eventually my father and Megan got married. That wedding was a nightmare. Megan barked orders at everyone, and every decision, no matter how small, had to be okayed with her first. At any rate, shortly after they were married, I met Rita, and I was just grateful that I had found someone that wasn't like Megan. Rita was gorgeous and had such a fun and adventurous personality. We loved spending time together. The only hang-up was that Rita hadn't always been good with her money. When she was younger, she had a tendency to overspend, and as such, she never really gotten herself a place of her own and rented a house with 4 other friends. Meanwhile, I was very frugal, and I had bought a house years ago, and I had very nearly paid it off even. Around that time, I proposed to Rita, and she screamed out in joy, "Yes!" It was a magical occasion, and I was so excited about finally getting married. I went and told my father and Megan the good news, and they both genuinely seemed happy for me. I knew my father would be happy, but for Megan to be happy felt odd somehow. Shortly after I proposed, Rita moved in with me, but then we got some devastating news. My father began to feel ill all the time. He would wake up feeling fine, but at some point in the day, he would begin to feel nauseous and could barely keep any food down. He started to waste away. He had been a bit on the heavy side for all his life, but he could eat so little that he began to drastically lose weight. It was startling to watch, and I felt powerless to help him. I tried to get all kinds of his favorite foods, but he couldn't eat any of them. It was incredibly awkward for me, because I felt so powerless to help my father, while at the same time I was so excited that I was going to be getting married soon. I felt like I was being torn in two directions. Then one day, Megan approached me with something that I would never really expect.
Hey, Malcolm, can I talk to you in private?
Sure, of course. What's up?
Well, I just wanted to ask you something. You see, your father needs special medical care and we can't really afford it, while at the same time, you will be getting married soon, and you'll need a bigger home since you and Rita will probably start having kids. That small house of yours isn't big enough for a family.
What are you saying?
Well, I was thinking, why don't you buy our house? That way, we would have the money for your father's medical bills, and you can have a home fit for a family. What do you say?
I guess I'll think about it. But if Dad needs money, I can lend him some to help with his medical bills.
No, we need more than just a small amount of money. Just go and speak with Rita and let us know what you decide.
That night, I went home and spoke with Rita. My stepmother thinks that I should buy their house because mine is too small for a family.
Well, she's right. Plus, it's close to some good schools, too.
Wait, did she talk with you about this?
Well, yes. And I agree that it is a good idea.
You don't think it sounds a bit suspicious?
No, not at all. You're being paranoid.
There was something in the way that Rita was speaking that I suddenly felt paranoid with her words. I couldn't shake the feeling that she was in league with Megan somehow. After all, why hadn't she mentioned that my stepmother had suggested that we buy their home until now? I don't think I'll take her up on the deal. I mean, sure, they'll have money after the sale of the house, but where will they live? I don't think they've really thought this thing through.
Oh, okay, I guess.
That night we went to bed, and in the morning Rita left for work early. Minutes after she left the house, there was a loud crash, and suddenly Rita's car was in our living room. She had driven through the front of the house and had totaled most of the living room and kitchen. What the devil did you do? Are you okay?
Oh, Malcolm, I'm so sorry. I must have gotten a flat tire as I was leaving, and when I tried to back out of our driveway and then drive off, I lost control and slammed into the house.
I'm just glad that you're all right. The house and car can be replaced. You can't. The front two tires of the car were indeed flat, but I was confused as to how she had managed to gain so much speed to damage the house so severely. At any rate, I called the police and made a report of the accident. As I was standing outside, I was approached by one of my neighbors, who looked a bit shaken up. Hey, George, is everything okay? Oh, hey, Malcolm. Listen, I have something to tell you, and it may be nothing, but I just thought I would tell you. What is it, George? Well, I saw Rita pull out of your driveway this morning and then get out of the car and stab both front tires with a knife and then drive the car straight into your house. What? I'm so sorry to give you such awful news, but I thought I would tell you. After all, there is a camera on my doorbell that recorded it as well, and I'm sure the police will ask for the video as part of their investigation, so I figured I would tell you before they asked. I thanked George for telling me and asked him for a copy of the video so I could confront Rita and get some answers from her. Alone inside the upstairs of our house, I showed her the recording and demanded answers from her. What the hell were you doing? It's very clear that you rammed your car into the house on purpose. What possessed you to do it?
It was all your stepmother's idea. She told me that if I figured out a way to destroy this house, that you would have no choice but to buy their house. And I want a bigger house. This place is too small for us to start a family in.
I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My fiancé had destroyed our home on purpose. and all because my stupid stepmother told her to. I wanted to give Megan a piece of my mind, and so I stormed over to my father's house. They were sitting down to lunch, and my father looked to be in good spirits. A bit worn down, but overall good. Megan, however, looked panicked, like I had walked in on something. Just as I was about to scream at her, my nose picked up an odd scent. Following the smell, I reached for the plate of food in front of my father. It smelled like antifreeze. I almost didn't notice it with all the potpourri that was in the kitchen. I suddenly realized what was happening, and I grabbed my father and dragged him out of the house. I then drove him to the hospital. While on the way, I called the police and reported my stepmother for attempting to kill my father. The police were skeptical, but they brought her in for questioning. At the hospital, my father and the doctors were confused, but when I asked them to run some toxicology tests on my father, they understood immediately once the results came back. You see, I realized that my stepmother must have been slowly poisoning my father so that he died slowly, and so that it looked like some unknown illness instead of poisoning. She didn't want me to buy their home so that they could pay my father's medical bills. She wanted the money so that she could leave the country once my father was dead. Then she would get the money from the house and my father's life insurance as well. Once the doctors confirmed my suspicions, they sent the findings to the police, who arrested Megan and charged her with attempted murder. My father was of course devastated, but also a bit relieved. Sadly, he had been very unhappy with Megan, but had been too much of a coward to say anything or break it off with her. Then when he started to get sick, and she started taking care of him, he felt that he owed it to her to keep doing as she said. It should have been a huge red flag for him when she had him take out a large life insurance policy, but my father just ignored all the warning signs. Shortly afterwards, Megan was sent to prison for her attempts to kill my father. Sadly, she was only sentenced to 10 years in prison, but at least my father divorced her, seeing as how she tried to murder him. The judge let my father keep all the assets and belongings and left Megan with nothing. At least when she got out of prison, she would either be forced to live on the streets or move in with a family member that was dumb enough to give her a chance. As for my father, once Megan was no longer giving him poisoned food, he began to make a full recovery. He has sworn off dating for the rest of his life, and honestly, I can't really blame him. As for me, well, Rita ended up going to prison for destruction of private property. Just like with Megan, she didn't get much prison time. Only a few years, but by the time she's out, I'll have moved on. I drained the mutual bank accounts we had and moved all the money from them to a personal account. Thankfully, my house insurance agreed to pay for the repairs to my home. Unlike my father, I do intend to date again, but I'll be far more picky the next time. I'm just glad that I was able to see through Megan's insidious plan before it really did more damage. Had I bought my father's house, I wouldn't have been able to afford it and would have gone into bankruptcy. A fact that Megan didn't really care about. So all in all, I am pretty sure that both my father and I are in much better places, and while Megan and Rita are stuck behind bars. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and leave a comment down below saying I subscribed, and we will try our best to reply to your comment.